On this edition of Freedom Journal Iraq, we'll get an operational update on the improving security in Iraq. And we'll look at protecting Iraq's historical treasures. Don't miss these stories and more on today's FJI. Hello, I'm Air Force Sergeant Braden Smith. Welcome to this edition of Freedom Journal Iraq. Multinational Force Iraq spokesman Major General Kevin Bergner addressed the issue of Iraqi security and coalition force-led operations in Iraq. Petty Officer Chris Newsom reports on their efforts.
Iraq security and coalition forces performed operations in Mosul to remove illegal weapons and enforce rule of law. General Kevin Bergner, Multinational Force Iraq spokesman, spoke about the growth in the area.
So there is no question there's been progress. There is still a great deal of progress required there, and a concerted effort will be necessary to keep the pressure on the al-Qaeda networks and their affiliates and to continue to pursue those that seek to incite violence in Mosul.
General Bergner went on to say they have made progress in capturing important figures in the al-Qaeda network, as well as expanding control to the western borders. Petty Officer Chris Newsom, Baghdad.
The expansion will decrease the flow of foreign terrorists and has greatly improved the cooperation between the citizens of Mosul and the Iraqi security forces. Iraq's cultural heritage sites are some of the most ancient and spectacular in the world, but they're in danger of deteriorating beyond repair. Petty Officer Patrick Dilley tells us more about ongoing preservation efforts throughout the country and coalition forces' role in the process.
The artifacts and construction at these Iraqi sites is ancient. Some areas are well preserved, while others are still quite vulnerable. Whatever their condition, they are invaluable to the history of mankind.
Because ancient Mesopotamia, which is modern-day Iraq, is really the cradle of civilization. And so you have these sites that hold very important objects that can help us trace our past. So it's important to preserve those things so that we can look back in the scientific record and understand who we are and where we came from.
U.S. Central Command General Order No. 1 Bravo governs the U.S. military's role in Iraq's cultural heritage preservation.
Don't pick up pottery, don't pick up pot, even if it's a small piece, don't stick it in your pocket, don't send it home. There are very strict import restriction laws that say that all cultural material from Iraq is prohibited from leaving this country. If somebody is selling a pristine artifact, don't buy it. That supports the looting and the smuggling that is going on in this country. If you know somebody that's buying or selling artifacts, turn them into the local authorities.
This international symbol marks protected sites, but there are other ways to determine if an area is historically significant.
In an otherwise flat landscape, you have a large hill, a large mound, as it were. What's underneath that hill is a temple or a ziggurat or several layers of human civilization. So it's important not to drive on that, land helicopters on that. It's important not to dig in it, not to build any modern buildings on top of that. If you run into something like that, stop the construction immediately and, again, contact the proper authorities.
These measures will help ensure U.S. forces continue to support Iraq's cultural preservation. Petty Officer Patrick Dilley, Baghdad.
You're good.
Coming up, coalition soldiers provide medical assistance to local Iraqi citizens.
Here's your raid report. Coalition forces detained a key criminal in eastern Baghdad. A citizen tip led soldiers to the individual who was suspected of conducting IED attacks, kidnappings, and murders. In Mosul, coalition forces captured a senior advisor to a terrorist court system. Coalition forces also arrested an al-Qaeda organizer who has coordinated and executed attacks against security forces personnel and Iraqi civilians. In southeast Baghdad, coalition forces captured 4 suspected special groups criminals. During their search, coalition forces also discovered a vehicle-borne IED. Coalition forces killed a terrorist and captured 2 al-Qaeda and Iraq members near Balad. During the raid, one man refused to follow coalition forces' instructions and ignored warning shots. Perceiving hostile intent, coalition forces engaged and killed the suspect. And that's your raid report. I'm Airman First Class Michael Williams.
Here are the latest Operation Iraqi Freedom headlines. Prime Minister Maliki traveled to Maysan province to announce the formation of new tribal support councils to work with the government on security and development issues. Prime Minister Maliki also discussed ways to support the return of Iraqi refugees and internally displaced persons. He said they're showing great interest in coming home, largely due to improved security. Major General Atta says security has improved to the point that nations should reopen embassies in Baghdad. He also said security forces are working to help displaced families return home. Military leaders say deaths from roadside bomb attacks in Iraq have dropped almost 90% over the past year. They credit mine-resistant ambush-protected vehicles, increased security roles by Iraqis, and improved surveillance. Those are your headlines from around the region. I'm Air Force Sergeant Sarah Bishop.
Logistics. Keeping the warfighter in the fight, from factory to foxhole, maintenance, supply, and transportation. Making sure the warfighter has what the warfighter needs. Reliable, predictable, whenever, wherever. If you buy it, scan it, hack it, ship it, lift it, fill it, or fix it, check it. What gets checked gets done.
Iraq's power and electrical systems are gaining strength, and communities are beginning to see the light. At first glance, it doesn't look like much. A construction site with a large wooden box strapped to a forklift, a crane, approximately 15 Iraqi Army and multinational division Baghdad soldiers, and a small pile of equipment. But coalition and Iraqi forces are shedding some light on a Baghdad neighborhood. The street lights are geared to deter criminal activity and ease the burdens on growing economic progress in the region. The lights are solar-powered, which doesn't add any additional pressure on Iraq's electrical grid. The lights, which cost approximately $4,000 each, will eventually be placed in the Muthana, Dora, and Abu Ghraib sections of Baghdad and in the city of Taji. The team has installed the first 4 out of a total of 100 lights in the Baghdad community. A brighter future is also ahead for Iraqi citizens. Coalition soldiers are constantly looking for ways to improve Iraq. Army Private Zach Goodwin shows us how some soldiers provided their medical expertise and assistance to local citizens.
Soldiers from Charlie Company, 703rd Brigade Support Battalion, visited the region near patrol base Copper on May 24th to provide medical aid to Iraqis living in the area. The medical team set up in a small school near patrol base Copper to examine patients and provide treatment. Soldiers from 2nd Battalion, 502nd Infantry Regiment provided security in the area for the medical engagement.
We've done multiple reconnaissance patrols through the area, and we frequently come and visit with the local population here. Basically, our mission was to get here before them, clear the school just for any possible hazards, and then provide a safe environment for both the coalition forces personnel here on the ground, as well as the local nationals coming here for medical care.
Specialist Janelle Opal is a combat medic with the 703rd VSB and screened patients. Specialist Opal says the Iraqi people are usually very appreciative of the coalition forces' aid efforts.
Generally, we get a really good response. They're just happy to have us there, any help we can give. A lot of thank yous, and the kids generally just want toys and candy, but the parents and the adults seem to be very thankful, and respect us for what we do, I think.
Soldiers examined over 100 Iraqis during the engagement and provided treatment and medication. Specialist Opal also said she feels what she does is very important.
1, because we have the medical asset available. 2, I think, just to help out. If we can, why not? And it only helps to concrete the relationship we have, especially in those areas where we already have a really good relationship. There's no reason, if they've given to us, why we can't give back.
These medical engagements are a useful tool for building the Iraqi people's faith in the coalition forces and their local leaders, and eventually the central government. Reporting from Fob Kalsu, Iraq, I'm Army Private Zach Goodwin.
And that wraps up this edition of our program. Be sure to log on to mnf-iraq.com, where you can learn all about the progress coalition forces are making throughout the country. If you have story ideas, we'd love to hear them. Just email us at fji@iraq.centcom.mil. From all of us here at AFN and Freedom Journal Iraq, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.